Hello, everyone. You are listening to episode 297 of the At Percussion podcast. I am your host, Ksenija Komljenović, and as always, I'm here with my beautiful people, Karli, Viña.
Hey, Ksenija, how's it going?
Going well, Karli. How are you?
Good.
Good. Enjoying that new gig?
Yeah. Made it through. Everybody survived the first week of classes. It's a good thing. There was some chaos, but in the best way.
It's just the rite of passage. I'm sure you handled it beautifully. Well, good. Happy beginnings. And we have our wonderful Ben Charles.
Hey, Ksenija, how are you?
Hey, I'm still all right as of 10 seconds ago. And you, Ben?
Doing well. Yeah, we just finished our second week, so things are trucking along here.
You're ahead. Always been an overachiever. Always trying to be
I try.
Just a week ahead, man. Casey will be joining us a little bit later in the episode, and you'll get to hear his voice too. So we will be releasing this episode on September 16, and here is what happened in music history. So in 1887, the birth of French music composition teacher, mentor par excellence, Nadia Boulanger in Paris. I don't know if you knew, but I did not. She was born to a French composer father and a Russian princess mother. So that's fancy. You already know that she was a teacher to great American composers such as Elliott Carter, Aaron Copland, Virgil Thomson, and then also Piazzolla and Glass and Quincy Jones. And she was the first woman to conduct many major orchestras in America and Europe, including the BBC Symphony and Boston Symphony in Philadelphia. I did quite a lot of digging about her, a very interesting life, her and her sister. But there was a quote that I really liked that came from her, and it said that she insisted on complete attention at all times. She said, "Anyone who acts without paying attention to what they are doing are wasting their life. I'd go so far as to say that life is denied by lack of attention, whether it be to cleaning windows or trying to write a masterpiece." So there you go. Some wisdom from Nadia Boulanger. And then we had 1976, the birth of Elina Garanča, a Latvian operatic mezzo-soprano from Riga. Happy birthday, Elina. And 1977, opera diva Maria Callas died of a heart attack in Paris at the age of 53. In 2006, a little bit of ageism protruding its ugly head, saying that finally, a 65-year-old Bob Dylan became the oldest person to top a Billboard's album charts when Modern Times goes to #1. So, Karli, go ahead.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about Nadia Boulanger, and I think it's interesting because we all know her name. We learned about her in music history courses and everything, but we always think about her as we learn about like her connections to other composers, and she influenced Copland, she influenced, and it's cool to hear a little bit more about her life, and I encourage our listeners to maybe read up on her because she must have been a hugely interesting figure. And then the other thing I thought of, you said she demanded attention, and probably these computers we have in our pockets all the time might have driven her crazy in lessons and rehearsals and all that. So
there you go.
I wonder what she would think.
True. She was quite an opinionated lady. I like that, and definitely worth looking up. But, anyway, I've been thinking about all of this, and I just wanted to throw in a question out there, thinking about this, Billboard chart and these vocalists born, dying, so on. Does anyone know what is the best-selling album in classical music in this century? Or whose album it is, or who sold most albums in total of classical musicians? Because we constantly talk about success.
I know that Schulte is the most Grammy award-winning conductor, so I would assume him, but I could be wrong.
Here's my guess. Some of the Beethoven symphony recordings with Zell.
Those are really good, educated, kind guesses. But no, has anyone heard of Katherine Jenkins?
No.
I don't think so.
I love this. I saw this on Classic FM, and I was like, who are these top 10? I've only heard of like Bocelli, an operatic pop singer. And she sold most albums in the 21st century So I think that was, let me say, the number is 2.6 million. But just for reference, BTS sold 3 million albums in the first week of their latest release. So it's a little bit, it's like really, really interesting. I like these things to put things into perspective. Not that sales or money equal value or human value, or they're not also, you know, the opposite end of it. But Kenny G says Karli, you know, you're probably close.
That was my unofficial guess.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder, like if obviously no one at home can see, but I put in the chat, does Josh Groban count? But it's like, he is sort of a classical singer, but obviously he's more of like a pop singer or is he a classical singer using a pop style, or pop singer using a classical, you know? But yeah, so I don't know, it's like, it's kind of hard to draw the line in the sand, I think, in this case, on like what the best-selling classical album would be. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, most of them happen to be singers. So, you know, here we are, a bunch of nerdy percussionists, and we know that we're the coolest, but, you know, go check those out. Who knows? Maybe it tells you something about the market.
What's the best-selling percussion album of all time, I wonder?
I would love to know that.
I mean, it has to be Evelyn Glennie. I'm sure, like, her greatest hits or something. There's no one else I would think that could top Evelyn Glennie.
Well, probably, yeah, at least, and the woman has played circles around everyone and for decades longer than most people. So yeah, that would probably make sense. But anyway, there you go. You know, check that out. Yeah, go look up Catherine Jenkins. Not that she needs any more attention. Let's move on to our guest. Our guest for today calls in from Switzerland, or at least comes from there. He doesn't travel a lot, so it's a little bit difficult to keep track of where he is. And you must have seen him around, at least on the internet, especially if you ever happen to check out the really popular YouTube videos on the topic of percussion. He's a soloist and a chamber musician, a member of Trio Colores, and the creator of opportunities for others, since he founded his own concert series titled Marimba Recital Concerts. He frequently takes part in world premieres by renowned composers, including Sejourné's Double Concerto for Vibraphone, Marimba, and Wind Orchestra in 2016, and the percussion concerto Tongues of Fire by Hatsis in 2017. In the future, we will have the opportunity to see his work with Dorman and Psatas come to life, we hope. We're excited about that. There's a lot of exciting stuff there going on for such a young person. But everyone, please welcome Fabian Ziegler to the show. Hello, Fabian.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. It's great to have you. Tell us, how are you doing today, and what did you do yesterday? You went on stage?
I'm good. Actually, yesterday I had quite a free day because I was traveling back from the Gstaad festival where we played with the City Light Orchestra. It's a film music orchestra from Switzerland. So now I'm back home since yesterday and I'm doing good. Concerts are starting little by little again, and yeah, we can enjoy the stage again, and I'm really happy about this.
That's awesome. So the topic of our show is starting your chamber group, and you have this wonderful, young, successful ensemble, Trio Colores, and I'd love for you to tell us about how you founded the ensemble and how it's transformed over the years.
It was actually quite interesting story because when we started, we wanted to do a marimba quartet. So we actually founded a marimba quartet. And then we ended up, after the first concert, one of our colleagues, he just stopped his studies. He stopped to play music. So yeah, after the first concert, we had the situation that we were like, okay, we wanted to do a marimba quartet, but now we're just three of us. So actually, after some months, we decided to continue as a trio, and yeah, then we just slowly started like to play small gigs, and then to build our repertoire, to think about programs. Yeah, this is how it all began.
I love how you've managed to reframe something that was a dream, a quartet, and then it turned into a trio, not by anyone's ill will or anything. It just happened to be so, but you took the opportunity and we proceeded with it, and now your trio is definitely like one of the first ones that especially young people think of when they think of chamber music and percussion, which is amazing. So since we're going to be talking about, starting your own chamber group, we need to define what is a successful chamber group. So what to you is success in those terms?
Yeah, I mean, it's in general a very interesting question. What is success? And I was working myself on finding the answer, and for me, actually, the answer is really that we can just enjoy what we do and that we can just be on stage. I guess this was one of the worst things what we had when we had the lockdowns and everything in the COVID times, that we just were sitting at home. Of course, we were still continuing to work, but we couldn't really be on stage. And I think really it's nice to play in big concert halls. It's nice um, to have great success, whatever it means. But I mean, to have the three of us on stage having fun together, doing what we love. This is for me what I think is success for myself.
Fabian, when I think about what might make a chamber group especially successful, I think about kind of the chemistry and the personalities of the people, at least, personally successful. What do you think about how do you find your people? How do you find the people that you want to play with and can live with and grow with musically for, hopefully an extended period of time?
I guess actually this is one of the most important and one of the hardest things, to find those kind of people where you feel perfect on stage. Um, I had some experience before, like of course in university I played a lot of chamber music with different people, with different students, and in the end I just feel that the chemistry on stage is so important. Even the three of us, if we have some discussions going on, or if we have maybe a moment where we have some issues what we need to solve, like the three of us, I think you can just see it on stage. The audience can feel it, we can feel it. So I think it's one of the most important things if you start a chamber group, to really find the people which are fitting to each other. And it's a nice thing in university because you can really start to play chamber music. You can try it with different people. You can see who is fitting to whom. So I think this is a quite interesting but super important topic for starting a chamber group.
With all of these successful chamber groups, one topic I think that comes up is identity. And you kind of talked about it's a collaboration between the players, and you have probably similar viewpoints on music and playing styles, maybe some differences to make it interesting. But and one thing that comes up with this is repertoire selection. And one of my favorite stories is, I think it was Black Earth Percussion Group had this system where on any concert everyone could choose a piece that they wanted, but everything else had to be a majority vote. So basically, you got veto power, except for everyone could select one piece. What's been your approach to selecting repertoire?
We always tried to make nice programs, but the thing, like for percussion trio, what we realized in the very beginning was that, of course, there are pieces like Trio per Uno or Musique de Table or Oko by Xenakis. But I was talking already with Ksenija about this before. After those pieces, of course, there are new pieces what you can commission, but there is not so much left what you can really see, like those are the big pieces for percussion trio. So what we tried also to start is with the classical arrangements, which we are extremely lucky to have one of our members which is doing extremely good arrangements. And we were just thinking in this way that we wanted to give the people not a percussion show, but we wanted the people maybe to go out of a concert of us thinking the same kind of things what they would maybe think from a piano recital or string quartet recital. So that choosing the repertoire was a quite big thing for us and is always a quite big thing for us. We always try to also find new things what we can arrange or to commission new pieces. And in choosing the repertoire, I think it's always important that you can also tell somehow a story, or you can take whatever pieces you want. You can find a theme where you can put them somehow. But what is the very interesting thing is really to find a way to make a story, what you can tell to the people. Now, for us, it's really important that we really can tell a story to the people when we're on stage, like that we have programs which are letting us to tell a story. And what is really important in choosing the classical arrangements is also that we try so many different pieces, different composers, to finally find the pieces which are working for our instruments. Because I think this is the most important thing. If we do an arrangement, what Luca, our member, is doing, it needs to work on our instruments. We have a lot of possibilities for sure, but for example, it's hard to have a orchestral piece except of, like, we had now Dos Macabres from Camille Saint-Saëns, which is working super good, and it was a little bit surprising because the rest of our program, what we are having right now, what we're working on, French program, is mainly from piano repertoire, because the system is quite equal from the piano to our instruments. Like, we also cannot really we can create the sound, but we cannot really, make vibratos like a violin, or really try to form a note when we're playing it. We just have this one moment where we create the sound, and then of course we can roll it, but it's never the same as a string player with his bow, for example. So this is a very big issue for us, what we want to solve always, and what we're also why we are taking a lot of time to choose our repertoire.
Have you found any examples that you couldn't find a solution to, or that didn't work?
Well, we are right now thinking about our next program, because we kind of finished this French program. We try to perform it. So we started to check a lot of Russian music, and then we just saw, okay, well, let's try Rachmaninov is great music. But then we just had found this thing that Rachmaninov was such a good pianist, and he wrote so pianistically that it's extremely hard to arrange it for our instruments, because he was using the sound of the piano a lot. He was using actually crazy a lot of basses from the piano, what we just unfortunately are not having.
Yeah, for me, like, a lot of the time people will take a movement of a Beethoven piano sonata and try and do it on two marimbas, and it's like, it should work like range wise, but it just, for some reason, it sounds really plinky to me. It just doesn't sound like a piano.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, like, if you have an orchestra piece, in the orchestra you are having so many colors. Of course we can also create a lot of colors, but you will never find those kind of colors what you're having in the orchestra, because you have wood players, string players, percussion, brass players. So I think this is also why we started to really take a look at the piano repertoire. But yeah, even there we have
So
some
what you're saying is, like,
composers.
should people attempt Rite of Spring on marimba, or probably not?
I'm not gonna answer this question here.
Oh, Ben.
No.
So that's a firm no.
I'm gonna put a huge sticker on your head for this episode, Ben, and every time you speak, it's just gonna squeak. It's nothing gonna come out.
That's a firm no from Switzerland on Rite of Spring on marimba. Okay, got it.
Switzerland gave Serbia 0 points. But Fabian, speaking about repertoire, you've done some really interesting arrangements of all our percussion pop hits, like Ghanaia and some Trevino works, right, and Losa and so on. So what have people, of all these things that you've done, and you're constantly borrowing and sort of appropriating music for your instrument, what have people responded to the most? What do people think is most interesting?
Well, if we check the pieces what we recorded on video was mostly Catching Shadows. Yeah, it's actually what you said, like Catching Shadows, Losa and Ghanaia. I think just also because there are like almost every percussionist knows those pieces. And actually, the fun fact is we started with those pieces in the very beginning because we just had to start somewhere. And some of the pieces we played with other people in studies or did this and that. So it was kind of the small start. Like, for example, Catching Shadows, we played in so many concerts, but just with cajon or with percussion in general, because we just thought, okay, I mean, there is sextet, so we can take the marimba parts, and Matthias can just really work on all the rest of the parts, of the percussion parts. And then finally, when we wanted to record some videos, he was like, but actually it would be super interesting to do it with drum sets. So that came up for the video, because honestly, we played it now once in a concert, because you just need to have everything mic'd up, because you just cannot hear the marimbas anymore if he's playing drum set. So that was kind of really for the video, but of course the other pieces were playing quite often. The video with Ghanaia was also a little bit an experiment for us, because it was a lot of overdubbing. We just tried to create something new, and until now we were always lucky that the composers also liked it very much. Like we also have even the drum scores from Catching Shadows for sale, what we also checked everything with Ivan Trevino. And yeah, I mean, it's just something extremely different to the classical repertoire, and it's both having the interesting facts.
So to sort of wrap up our conversation about repertoire, young folks, I think, rarely think about this. Usually what they do is, especially if they're in school, they just get a bunch of pieces at the beginning of the semester or year from their professor. They could be masterworks, they could be just educational, and they say, go learn this, and then maybe you'll have a recital. And they never think themselves, I think, about a topic of a recital or what is it supposed to say. It's just about this, like you're running to improve. But then I checked out your schedule for the upcoming concerts, and you have some children's concerts, and you're working on concerto repertoire for a trio, and you have your French repertoire that you're doing. Why does that matter? Why do you even bother? I mean, when you're explaining this to young people, why does it matter that you have a theme, and how do you choose your themes?
Well, I mean, and to pick up the topic of being in studies, just playing what your teacher is telling you is also was quite a big thing for me always, because I always tried to be curious, to check out composers which are maybe not the world's knowns, and for me it was always extremely interesting to play something what no one in our school played. I didn't play all the big marimba pieces. Yeah, I mean, in our school, like a lot of people are playing. Okay, my teacher told me I should play Velocities, or I should play Merlin now. I think it was in 2015 or 16. I went the first time to ICMA, to Katarzyna Miczka, and there I met Christos Hatsis, and then from there I just also checked out his music. I played I think as one of the first ones in Europe also, the percussion concerto in the Fire of Conflict. I recorded it, and that was just super interesting, because you just get another amount of attention if you're doing something what no one else is doing. Because I think the way to really be exceptional in our big even percussion business is just extremely hard if you're playing all the things what everyone else is doing already. So coming back to the topic of the concerts, I mean, it's nice to tell a story with the program, but the other thing is also, I mean, you always need to think also from the perspective of a concert organizer or whatever, or an orchestra. They always need to sell this concert. I mean, they want people to come, so it's way much easier also for the organizers or the orchestras to sell a story. I mean, it's the same as an artist. You should try, and it's one of the hardest things in my opinion, to tell a story of yourself as an artist. So for what you're standing, what is the thing, what is making you exceptional. So I think with this, especially with the quality of the arrangements, we made ourselves quite exceptional, because, well, no one else around us was doing it until now. Or, I mean, there is still a lot of there are still a lot of things existing, the classical arrangements, but I think we're just extremely lucky that we have someone like Luca Staffelbach in our ensemble, because he's just really bringing this to a new level, because it's just so well thought from our instruments, but also from the original music. And we always really try not to change the music, but to just give our thoughts to it, like to perform the same piece, but in our, let's say, in our colors and in our opinions. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to always have a theme in a concert, that's for sure. And sometimes it's also fun to just play whatever you want to play. Still, it's quite hard always to find the things which are equal to each other, where to find the same topic, but I think it's always possible. But of course, if you have like a theme, like, of course, it's the French music from the 19th century, then you can still, the people, the organizer can sell it as, yeah, you know, like a French evening. Or of course you can sell the big composers, what we are unfortunately not having yet. I think maybe it will be the same in 200 years, that everyone will think, you know, there in 2021 John Psatas wrote a new percussion solo piece. I hope it's going to be like this, but for now we're not having it, because we're not having this history of music and pieces from those big composers. So for a lot of organizers, it's always way much easier also to sell the concert and the program if they have the big composers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if we're young students and we followed your advice, so we played with a lot of buddies at school and we checked out who we want to work with, and we've selected our group, and then we've put together some programming thinking about it, not just doing whatever. What should we do next if we want to try to sell a concert? What happens next?
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing for everything in our job is really to have the network, that people are knowing you. I mean, you're not gonna play a concert if you are not known to any people. I mean, this doesn't mean to be known of 1 million people and you have a fan base. We are working on it, but I'm not so sure if it's so easy as with a band or something. But I think the network is very, very important. And then, of course, you need to have like videos. You need to have a portfolio, what you want to send to concert organizers to approach them for a concert. But still, the main thing, what I have the feeling most of the time, is really that you are having the network, because concert organizers, let's say, I know it from some managements here in Europe, or from some organizers, they're getting like 250 emails per day. So they're like, yeah, I mean, I know this guy. No, I don't know this. Okay, I will open this one. We're talking a lot about this in our trio, actually. I mean, you can have such good videos, or you can have such good portfolio. If no one is gonna check it out, it's not helping at all. So I think what you always need to try, also in studies already, is to build up your network, like to meet different people. Doesn't need to be always only percussionists. Of course, it's interesting, but I mean, to play actually chamber music with a lot of different people, and maybe also in other fields. Like I also did recently a program with an actor. It was extremely interesting and brought some new things to my repertoire than what I had before. So I think it's very important to build up your network. I said this already so many times now, but I think it's really important.
Yeah. And for those young ones who don't know how that's done, because I remember hearing this also before, and I'm like, how do I start to know people who are concert promoters? Well, if you ever play a concert anywhere, meaning you're part of a big ensemble or a small ensemble or whatever it is, and you go somewhere and you're participating in a concert, ask who is in charge so you can go say thank you. Go say thank you, introduce yourself. Of course, be a well-behaved musician and do your best and help them promote the concert, and try to keep in touch. Try to get their contact. Send them a thank you email. And then maybe in a year, you're going to have a concert program to try to pitch to them. And maybe they will open this email because you've been a nice person to get to know, right? You haven't been a parasite, you haven't been ungrateful, you've been all the things that a good human being would be. So that's a piece of advice for young ones. But so we've had people call in and say, how the hell do you get such good videos as you have? And I'll tie that question into what I already know, because we chatted about this a little bit. But what is the role that competitions have had in your chamber music career? Because you've done some, right?
The first one we did was actually the most important for us in Switzerland, because it was it was one of the biggest ones, because it's not existing anymore. It was the last competition. So from there, actually, you get to know a lot of concert organizers, and well, they get to know you because they checked out the final. So after this competition, we played quite a lot, or we started to play quite a lot in Switzerland. Then we did also a competition in Germany, but the very hard thing, I honestly need to say, if you're a percussion ensemble and you're taking part in a competition with other instruments, so like we had like piano trios, string quartets, and mostly there is not a percussionist in the jury. So we didn't have such a big luck in Germany there, because just like, some pianists are coming and they're like, yeah, it's just not on the piano. So they just don't like it.
They're not real instruments. Just give them some award.
Even if I think that if the composers would be still alive, they would like it maybe even more than the piano version.
I agree, especially if it was the Rite of Spring, but let's not talk about that. Sorry, do continue.
So I think what is extremely important also, or can be a good chance with competitions, is if it's international competitions which are bringing you abroad, because I think this, in my opinion, is the hardest thing to get successful. Because in your own country, you can play maybe a lot of smaller concerts. The interesting thing is the bigger concerts, it's hard to get to play them, because the people are thinking, you were not successful abroad, so you're not successful. So I think that the very important thing is to get out of your own country. So what we are also trying is actually now in America competition again. what we should have been in the final last year, but we just couldn't even record a video because we're not all living in Switzerland, and Matthias couldn't come to Switzerland to record a video. So we'll try this one again this year in Washington. And this would just help us also to get one, well, not really a whole food, but part of it into the US. Like we would be there. So I think competitions are interesting. We should for sure not only think about competitions like I will practice now and I will do a competition and then I will be successful. Because if you're not having the network, what we said already before, you will get some concerts from a competition, but it will be over after 1 year. So it's important to do competitions, also to get known, to have something for your CV, of course, to work extremely hard on the repertoire, but still it needs to have a balance of competitions, networking, and everything else.
Awesome. So then do tell us, how do you get to have such awesome videos? Who are you, like, do you know a king or a queen somewhere? Like, who pays for that stuff? Because that stuff is Hollywood looking.
Well, actually, we're super lucky because the guy which is doing those videos, No Art Films, is a good friend of Matthias. So we paid quite some money on our own, but we were extremely lucky that it was not as expensive as for a company, because he's working actually a lot for companies for the promotion and everything. So yeah, it was honestly a lot of luck and the network, because Matthias knew him. So I mean, this is what, I don't know how it is in America, but in Zurich, for example, we have a very big school with all the arts. Like we have one school which is having all the arts. So you're getting to know other people from film. You're getting to meet recording engineers. So this is also something I would suggest to people, to really try to approach those kind of people, even if you're trying sometimes and it's not working out. Suddenly you will find someone where you're like, this is awesome. The same with our recording engineer. We would never do something without him, because it's just exactly the sound we want. It's we know him extremely good. We trust him in the recording process. So yeah, I mean, this is the same as to find the right people to play in a chamber group. It's just a lot of trying out with the different people, and then to suddenly find someone which is really fitting perfectly.
So we got our crew, we got our repertoire and the pitch and the network and the amazing portfolio. When do we get management? When do we stop worrying about everything and just someone does all the work for us? How do you get management?
Well, I think you will never get rid of those kind of things, because you still, even if you have a management, you need to do it on your own. I'm honestly also working on getting a management in Europe. And I'm sorry, I think the half of the podcast will be full with networking. I mean,
It's true.
yeah, I mean, we were super lucky, and myself as a soloist in the US, because the agency we're having in New York, they said they normally are not taking any artists without hearing them live firstly. But we just sent our videos, our portfolio and everything, and they were like really interested. But what I realized now, also trying to find an agency here in Europe, is really the network. You need to be proposed by someone to a management. I was having a very interesting call with one management some time ago, and he said, it's really interesting what you're doing, and I got the proposal from this person and this person. So I took the time to check out your portfolio or your recording. So I think in the end, it's really almost everything about networking.
You know, to add on to that just for a minute, these are the hard questions. Like people want to know, how do I get management? Or a lot of times people want to ask, how do I get deals with companies, you know, sponsorships or endorsements, that kind of thing. And it's a really, there's no like straight shot answer. Like if you do this, this, and this, then yeah, you get a deal. A lot of times it's what you say, it's networking, it's people, other people recommending you. It's not always the best thing to say like, here, look at me, I have this great stuff. Do you want to do a deal? You want to be my manager? It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, and I think also it's most of the time, as everything in all our life, you need to have a lot of luck. You need to be for whatever, for a management, for a label, for a concert. Sometimes you just need to be at the right moment in the right place. So, I mean, I cannot say do this and this and this to get the management, because I mean, I'm not having one in Europe. I'm working on it. But what I always try to do is just to really do as much as I can, and really not do the regular stuff. Like I could try to learn all the percussion concertos which all the percussionists in Europe are playing, like naming maybe Colin Curry or Martin Gubing or Simone Rubino. I think the chance to get to jump in for someone learning all those percussion concertos is quite small. Of course, it's a good can be a good moment where you can jump in for someone and then from there get some attention. But what I always try, especially as a soloist, is to commission new pieces, work with composers on new concertos, and from there, like maybe the same with Psatas now, to use his network also to get to orchestras, because as of course as a young musician you're like not known, you're a percussionist, it's not programmed every week, and the main audience is maybe also thinking okay, percussion, I'm not sure if I will go. So it's of course it's extremely expensive for an orchestra, knowing also that a lot of percussion concertos are just huge, like huge orchestra. So what I tried also to do when I'm commissioning something, to really take a step back and think also from the other perspective, like from an orchestra. Okay, maybe I should try not to have a too big orchestra. I should try not to have too many instruments, because it will make everything more expensive and harder to be programmed, because you need to travel, you need to have all the instruments from everywhere. And I think this is also a very important point, that you really need to take a step back and think from the other perspective, because you're doesn't matter if you're talking to an agency or to a company for an endorsement or to an orchestra or to an organizer. You always need to have also this kind of perspective, what they are thinking, what they are maybe checking, if it's possible or not, or if it's interesting or not.
Hey Fabian, I'm Casey. How's it going?
Hi Casey, nice to
Hey,
meet you.
sorry I'm like 50 minutes late to the show. I was thinking about what you all were saying just now, and I know we've talked about it a little before, like how do I get management? How do I get a sponsorship? How do I get published? Like there's a lot of those questions I want to ask you. Like in my mind, they sort of have kind of the same answer. Like you have to be visible. You have to already be a product that they want to sell. So if you approach a manager and you say, hi, my name is Casey, I've recorded some things and no one's ever heard of me, but I play really well, I promise, can you manage me and book me a lot of gigs? And would you please consider that? They might take the time to really look at you and figure that out. Or you could be the person that says like, hi, I'm Casey, I have 10 gigs already booked. Here's the emails of everyone I'm communicating with. I can't manage all of this myself anymore. Can you take over for me? I mean, before they even look if you're any good, they go like, oh, this person, like already it's already sold. I can already make a percentage of that. It's already done. And then through doing that, they look at you and go like, oh yeah, okay, great. Whether this person's good or not, who cares? They're selling. You know, the people want to see them. I would think it's the same thing with a sponsorship. Like, okay, are they visible? Are they teaching a lot of students? Are they out there performing a lot? Are people asking for them? Are they a draw? Great, I want my product attached to them. Same thing with publishers. It's so much easier. Like, hey, I wrote this piece and I've got all these people already asking for it. Here's a record of how many I've sold myself. Would you like to take that over? Of course they go like, oh, well, yeah, I do. So I think to young people, it's like, don't expect someone else to get this going for you. You have to get it going yourself, whether it's sponsorship, publishing, or gigs. You've got to, you have to do that already. And then you have to not just pitch them, hey, I'm good, but hey, look, I'm like already selling. And you could be having a cut of that.
Yeah, I think just the issue sometimes is that you're getting kind of to a point where you cannot really go further anymore on your own. So of course you need to try to do as much as you can on your own. And of course it's the easiest way to get, for example, a management. If you're saying, you know, I'm playing already 80 concerts a year regularly for the last 2 years, but now I would like to have a management, then of course they would be like, yeah, you know, I mean, we can just earn from this artist, and it's not that we need to build up his career. But it's just, I think it's just those points are so connected to each other that it's just extremely hard to cross the border of playing extremely a lot in good places where you're also getting paid good, which is of course also interesting for a management, and to really go over this border where you will play with orchestras, with bigger places. This is, in my opinion, this is the hardest step to take. I mean, of course, a big competition can help, or a super good CD label can help, even though let's not talk about CDs, because I mean, in a way it's stupid because no one is listening to CDs anymore. On the other hand, you're kind of taking a step up if you have a record out in a good label. So I think the same for agencies. You can get a really good agency which is building up your career, or you can get one when you're having already a lot of concerts, which is of course hard to do everything on your own to get to this level.
I think it's so important that these kinds of conversations keep happening, because at least before we move on from this, when I was younger, especially when I was a student, I thought, you know, the key to success is just to be super prepared and not miss any notes and, you know, be really musical and expressive. And there's so much more than to success than just being like a stellar player. And even sometimes when we have setbacks or disappointments or, you know, losses, things we don't achieve, we think, oh, I just have to come back and like, I can't miss that one note that I missed, or I have to play better. And there's so many other things that some people probably aren't thinking about. So thanks for sharing your insight on that.
The last thing of all of this pragmatic stuff that I wanted to chat about was finances. This is something that we don't talk about to students, and in general, we hesitate to give, obviously, financial advice. Don't take it from your percussion professor. You need to go to other people for that. But there are some logistics as to how to run an ensemble and how to handle finances. And this is something where I got some new information from Fabian when we talked about this episode. So will you tell us a little bit about how you handle finances as a trio?
Anyway, you can have so many great ideas. If you're not finding the money, you just cannot do it. I mean, I would love to commission a piece from Casey, but I don't know where to take the money from.
You can't afford it, man. It's too expensive. Yep.
You see? So if I would have it, I would contact you and commission a piece.
Wait,
No.
you can do this in-kind donation. So only, Fabian, if you continue to offend me about everything I do for like 6 months straight,
I'll take that. That's
Casey
payment.
will
I'll take
write
that.
you a free piece. It's no problem. Just tell me how much that rite of spring is horrible every day, and he will do it for free.
Deal. Done.
Sorry.
Okay,
continue.
I will think about this. Okay. No, I mean what we just started, especially when you're winning competitions, like we did the one in Switzerland. Of course, you're also getting the prize money, and then of course you can go from there. You know, let's share everything and let's just have a nice vacation, everyone on their own. But that was not really how we wanted to do it. So we, for example, we created like an account for our ensemble in the bank. And actually also this year, we also founded kind of an association, or whatever you want to call it, like association or a company or an organization. Also to manage the things a little bit better, because I don't know how it is in the US, but in Europe it's, well, especially in Switzerland, it's sometimes way much easier to get funds if you're an association or an organization. So that was quite a big issue always. Like, we want to do those great videos. It's super expensive. We need to find funds for it. We need to put our own money. And what we also started sometimes when we really played a lot, to just really cut a very small piece of our salaries and put it on our account. So you will see after, I don't know, after 10 concerts, you will suddenly have some more money on your account together, and you will be able to just whatever, to create your website, do new videos. And I think that the thing is, of course, you can do this also taking it from your own money, but it will be a way much bigger amount. What you can really feel if you're, I don't know, if you're putting $20 after every concert, you're like, okay, yeah, I don't feel the difference so much. Of course, you feel it still, but not so much. And then suddenly you have again some funds, some financials, what you can just use for the new stuff.
That's well said, and I think that's very fair to make sure that everybody contributes equally, or that at least everyone is on the same page of how finances are handled. Perhaps not everyone in the ensemble is in the same position. Perhaps not everybody's going to have a full-time job at every point. Maybe some people are going to be able to invest more with time or services that they can do or stuff that they can handle before they can pitch in money. But in any case, I mean, there's an expression in Serbian which sounds really clunky in English, but it's clean bill equals long love. So if you
What?
just... What is she saying? What? You look like the type of person who would arrange the Rite of Spring. That's stupid.
Yeah, what's that mean, Ksenija?
Well, it means that if your finances with people are clear, you can have an everlasting love. So making sure that that financial relationship is never tipped over to one side, and that things are at least always out in the open, makes for, you know, a good basis for a good professional or personal relationship. So there you go, a little bit of Serbian wisdom for you. Okay, Fabian, so before we wrap, just a couple of more questions. And one is, what do you find to be the most challenging thing when running a chamber music group?
You for sure need to start somewhere. I think this is the hardest thing. Like, you need to get your first concert. You need to, what we talked about before, like, you need to make this famous next step to the next level. But what I also always feel, and we actually are talking about this quite a lot, is that you need to have such a good relation with each other, because especially if you're performing a lot, you're like a family. I mean, you're traveling together, you're discussing together, you're having conflicts together, and we just also realized that you can just feel this on stage. If something is not completely right, we can feel it on stage, and the audience can feel it. So I think this is also quite a big thing what you always need to care about, that you're not only working on the musical side of the chamber group, but also on everything else. And of course, what you said, I mean, money is the worst thing to get problems with each other. So this is why we also kind of solved those problems with having the account together, where we can put all some money, the same amount of money all the time. And I just find it the worst thing to talk about, of course. It's the same with organizers, because you're like, yeah, you know, dude, I want to perform. I don't want to talk about finances. But in the same time, I'm always thinking like, yeah, you know, but I'm not doing this just for fun. I mean, I'm doing this because I love it, but I'm not doing this for fun. I'm not like in my case now, I'm not teaching, so I'm living completely from performing. And then it's of course you need to talk about this also. The hardest thing is always to improve. I mean, you always need to improve. I think you can feel this the best when you're studying, like when if you're almost done with your studies, you're like, my God, those people which are in the first year, what I'm doing in my life.
Yep. And for those of you who didn't hear anything, that are just listening, he did the hand gesture of like, uh-oh.
Yeah, no, so I think you need to try to improve all the time. I mean, there are of course sometimes moments where you're like, okay, I'm not improving at all, even though if you do, maybe. But there are just certain points where you just cannot feel it. But really to just always continue to work, of course, on your playing, but also on programming, what we discussed already before. And then, of course, the big thing is what we already said, to find a management is an extremely hard thing to do. But I mean, what Casey said, you need to sell a product. And actually, sometimes I'm really jealous for Americans, because, you know, as a Swiss person, being this kind of, yeah, you know, we're doing this and this, but yeah, you know, not like Americans sometimes, which are just like going out with everything, and they're like super excited about everything. This is something what we sometimes really should learn from you. I know, I mean, you need to be exceptional to someone if you want to get concerts, or a management or whatever, and this is a very hard step to do, in my opinion.
All right. Well, Fabian, thank you so much for being with us today. It was a pleasure to learn from you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It was nice to talk to you.
Awesome. Before you head off and you say hi and thanks also to your fellows from Trio Colores, tell us what is the next thing up for you? What you got going on and what can we look forward to?
I mean, talking in a longer time frame, I guess one of the big things are coming up next year for me as a soloist. Like, I'm having a new concerto with choir, with a young Polish composer, with Arkadiusz Kontny. Then what I told you already, I'm really excited to premiere a new double concerto for two percussionists and orchestra by John Psatas. And I'm sure it will be, as always, I'm working so much with John, and I'm always thinking why I'm doing this all the time, because I could commission so many other composers which are writing a little bit less difficult. And then there is a really exciting percussion concerto coming up next year in October, with Arash Safayan. I think actually he was in Billboards, talking about Billboards in the very beginning. He was in Billboards with This Is Not Beethoven, like a Beethoven variations for piano and chamber orchestra. So he will write a new percussion concerto, which will be premiered next year in October in Switzerland. And yeah, with the trio, we're working really hard on recording this French program and to bring it out even on a CD. Casey, I will write you and send you a CD, because I saw on the corner that you wrote you're still listening to CDs.
I'm still listening. I got a
He's the
stack
only one.
over there.
And maybe I can also record for you bad touch ones and send you a CD of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please. You betcha. It's such a good audio only piece, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So with the trio, we're having also a new arrangement. What we're playing the first time now in December with organ. It's a Telemann triple concerto, which is originally for viola, oboe, and flute. And we arranged it for the three of us and for organ. And we will also play it next year in October with an orchestra the first time. So there are always coming new videos. I will produce I'm actually on the move to produce my second album, which will be a portrait CD of music by John Psatas, what I commissioned. Follow me on my channels on Spotify, YouTube, all the social media channels, as well as the trio. There is coming a new video very soon, I think in a few weeks, where we did kind of a trailer for this French program, and you can check out some Ravel, some Saint-Saëns, and some Mio from our member Luca. And yeah, just don't miss anything on our channels and stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Go find Fabian, find Trio Colores, subscribe, like them, all of that good stuff. Do the same with our podcast if you have not done it yet. Also check us out on Patreon, because you can get nice perks and get to hang out with us if you do happen to support us. You can also go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It won't kill you. It'll do great for us if you appreciate what we're doing here. And we look forward to seeing you on the upcoming episode. We're coming close to 300. This is going to be big, everyone. So thank you once more, Fabian, Karli, Ben, Casey, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
See you.